Ho, ho, ho. Merry Pixmas, everybody. Yes, it's corny, but welcome in. Merry Christmas. It is Let's Bet, presented by Superbook Sports. I'm Mark Zeno. He's Brandon Marcello. With you guys here on this NFL Saturday. A lot of college bowl games to get to. We got so much to do. We'll go over the NFL, some props with Prop Holliday as well. Bobby Stanley will join us. Some bowl games to get to for the week, and of course, our plays of the day. And as always, want you guys to subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. Leave in the comments what questions you have, what games you're on, as well. Download that Pickswise app, available on the Apple Store and Google Play. Brandon Marcello, welcome. Merry Christmas. I hope you're doing well today.
Doing well, not as festive as you. I got on the show and I see this and it's just wow.
Tis the season to be giving and making money. So there's that. The only thing that I don't hope is that anybody's bank account matches the color of my shirt and hat. We want to stay in the black, not in the red. But we are here to help everybody else out with that. Before we get to the NFL real quick, interesting kind of run to the beginning of bowl season here. Some kind of lackluster games. Thought we got a good one last night between Wake Forest and Missouri. I was on the wrong side of that. Thought Missouri was going to be able to pull out the upset, but it was not to be. But nonetheless, just a quick evaluation of bowl season.
Yeah, I'm with you. It has not been a very entertaining bowl season so far. The quality of play is going to improve. Hopefully here, maybe not necessarily by midweek this week, but as we approach those New Year's Eve games, just some of these games, even the smaller teams, there's opt-outs that just aren't quite like tracking very well that are affecting these games quite a bit. And I don't think that'll be the case here in about another week or so, though. Some big games we'll talk about later, but like the Orange Bowl and games like that, a lot of players opt out of that and could change the game.
And again, the opt-outs in the transfer portal have certainly changed bowl season dynamically, making it much more difficult to find some consistency in betting. But we'll discuss that more coming up as we get into bowls later on in the show. Right now, look at some key games for Week 16. Starting in Minnesota as the Giants face the Vikings. Vikings laying 4 points and a higher total here of 48. Giants are 5-1 ATS in their last 6 road games. The favorite is 6-0 against the number in the last 6 meetings. Interesting to note here. There was actually, unfortunately, there was a shooting at the Mall of America last night. Some Giants players were in the mall when it happened. Now, none of the Giants players were injured. They were all accounted for. They got back to the hotel, but certainly a scary incident, to say the least. Wonder if some of the players might be a little bit shaken up and how it'll affect them on the field. But the problem here with these two teams, Brandon, is you have two bad defenses right now that are giving up a ton of points and a ton of yards. And there's a lot of variance in this game when you talk about those defenses. So I tend to lean on the Giants here a lot, just because I would never trust Minnesota laying more than a field goal, as we've seen. But really, it's also a question of which team sort of has the bigger letdown here. Is it the Giants, who expended a ton of emotional energy in beating the Washington Commanders on the road last week? Or is it the Vikings, who expended a ton of emotional and physical energy in making the greatest comeback in NFL history?
I see that total and I know it's high, but I'd go over right now because you got the two best one-score teams in the NFL going in this. We know the Vikings are 10-0. The Giants are 8-2-1. In one-score games this year. I think they might go back and forth and might end up being a high-scoring game that might actually finish with both teams in the low 30s. I know you talk about the Giants maybe expending some energy, but I like going over in the total right now. I know that sounds crazy, but I really like that right now, especially with the way the Vikings have been playing. I mean, last week was amazing in that comeback, but I think that these teams are going to go back and forth quite a bit in the second half.
By the way, I'll pat myself on the back again if you saw my social media. I live bet the Vikings last week at plus 870. So, and cash. Yeah, it was nice. One of the better cash. It was only 25 bucks. I'm not going to get unit shamed here. It was only $25, but still, the cash out for 242 was a nice little bet there. So for 25 bucks, I'll take that all day long. All right, Bengals and Patriots in Foxborough. Bengals continue to lay these short numbers. This one at 3, total of 41. They are 6-0. The Bengals are straight up and against the number in their last 6 games. I don't want to step in front of the Bengals in any size, way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
But these short numbers they keep laying, it's either odds makers and the public don't believe in them, which seems to be the case, or how much of this Belichick at home, despite the fact that he's calling out his quarterback publicly, former Patriots players are calling out the team. How much of that you think is a motivation for the Patriots today?
I don't know, maybe a little bit. And here's the other thing: everybody's talking about the cold weather across the country
Yeah.
this week, and everybody's going, "Well, Joe Burrow's 5-0 in his coldest games."
Five
It's like,
coldest
yeah,
games. Yeah.
But like the lowest temperature he's played in is like 27 degrees or 32 degrees. But anyway,
It's
that
zero.
that Patriots offense, yeah, that Patriots offense is atrocious. It's the
Yes.
worst under Belichick since his first season in 2000. Give me Burrow. I think they cover. I think they cover.
I'm with you.
Not say easily, but I see it happening. I think Joe Burrow is just absolutely on fire right now. Since week 3, he's by far, I think, the best quarterback out there. And then also, you also got to consider this: that offensive line has been doing a much better job protecting him
Yes.
here
Yes.
of late, and that's huge. And I really like the Bengals in this spot.
No, I do too. And Trey Hendrickson is going to play for the Bengals despite a broken wrist, so he'll be casted up and will be playing. Again, it's hard to step in front of the Bengals right now. It's just, when you get on a 6-0 ATS run, at some point it's got to snap, right? It's just really hard to keep covering games. But only one of those games that they covered were they laying more than a touchdown. And so it's really kind of
Yeah.
just they've been facing short numbers to their advantage. All right, one game that's really interesting today. Washington Commanders will be out west taking on the 49ers. This number has dipped below 7, and I'm seeing it at 6.5 across the board. That's key just because this thing had opened at 7.5, and enough of the sharp money that has come in pushed this thing back down to 6.5 here. Commanders are 8-0 in their last 8 Saturday games against the number. 49ers are 9-2 ATS in their last 11. Chase Young will make his season debut here this week. For me, this game is all about the number. If I can get a 7 or a 7.5, I would take the Commanders. And even at 7, I might even take the Niners knowing that they could push. But 7.5 is an automatic buy point on Washington. And let's be real about this here, Brandon. Objectively, if you look at the numbers, Brock Purdy has been below average. Like, just objectively, I know the team is winning games, but
Yeah.
I know they scored 35 points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but that was more about a Buccaneers defense that was missing a lot of players, that wasn't at full strength, some short fields that he had to work with due to turnovers. Let's not get it twisted here. Brock Purdy has been serviceable. He has not been good, and there's a difference.
Yeah. The 49ers are 6-1 against the spread in the last 7 games. That number dipping, like you said, I think I'm willing to take the 49ers there. Um,
Yeah,
I
it's
see that.
Washington pass, but I see you bet the number at 6.5, obviously.
Yeah, I think I just bet that number right now. This game, I'll be honest with you, is the hardest one when I'm doing my research. I'm not much an NFL guy. Doing my research is a very hard one to read, but
Mm.
that number dipping does entice me a little bit.
Well, and here's the other thing about Brock Purdy. If you go back and look at the teams that he's faced, he hasn't faced any good defenses yet. Miami doesn't count. Miami's not a good defense. Again, we talked about the Buccaneers, their problems. And last week, he gets a bad Seattle defense that can be run on all over the place. So he hasn't faced a defense of this level like the Washington Commanders. And that, to me, is a little bit problematic when you go up against a pass rusher like Washington and a run stuffing team like Washington. So I don't know that all the run lanes are going to be there, but this is more about the public jumping on San Francisco, seeing how good they are and their defense. But they're going to get a full test against a really good Washington Commanders defense team. So, again, if this thing gets back to 7 or 7.5, absolutely go Commanders. If not, it's probably a pass for me.
Difficult read, man.
No, absolutely is. All right, let's switch gears here and talk some props. Welcome in our guy, Bobby Stanley, a.k.a. Prop Holliday, as we get you set for NFL Saturday with a whole bunch of games today and then, of course, the 3 games tomorrow on Christmas Day. We welcome him in here, and the real question is, what sort of hat is Bobby Stanley wearing today? Because I am wearing my hat. He is wearing his Pickswise hat. Welcome in, Bobby.
I do have the Pickswise hat, but I remember what you said, Mark, about the old retro Devils. I got the green and red Devils
There you
jersey on
go.
today. It's fine.
There you go.
It is
See, that's
my
the
Christmas
Motanto
tradition.
days.
What's going on, guys? Merry Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas Eve to you too. All right, let's get it started here. So a lot of games today that are very interesting. We talked a lot about this Bengals Patriots game here, the weather being cold, how Joe Burrow operates. You have a play here in this one.
I do, and it's Joe Burrow over 9.5 rushing yards. But it's kind of a theory I like to put to the test. It worked last week with Trevor Lawrence. When a QB goes against a team that generates a lot of pressure but does not blitz very heavy, I think it's a perfect target for QB rushing props. So why? Well, they force QBs to make decisions very quickly, and when there isn't a blitz to pick up, there's not an open man to make a quick dump off. So where's New England stack up in this theory? Well, they generate pressure more than any other team in the league, and they're about 15th in the blitz rate. Well, can their secondary hold coverage? They're second overall in pass DVOA. So I think it's a great spot to test this, and the line's only at 9.5. If I look at the Patriots, they're giving up 5.5 yards per carry to opposing quarterbacks this season, and 6 quarterbacks have hit this line. So cold weather, good coverage. Give me Joe Burrow, 9.5 rushing yards.
Makes a ton of sense. Good look there. All right. Also, you're looking at a rushing prop today for James Cook.
I am. So Bills get a break from the divisional games. I just went back-to-back in the AFC East. They get Bears as 8.5-point favorites on the road. I think this is a great spot for James Cook to go over 28.5 rushing yards. It's going to be a balmy 14 degrees in Chicago, and they have the 27th overall rush DVOA in the league. And Cook has hit this in 3 of the last 5. So Cook's big playability, he can break big runs. He has the speed, the ability to turn the corner, really stands out in this game. The Bears giving up a 20-yard rush in 60% of games, 3rd worst in the league. Might be a fun day to grab James Cook on some alt lines. You get him plus 40 yards, 50 yards, and him to score is plus 320. So big on James Cook today for the Buffalo Bills.
Bears bottom 5 rush defense in the league. Love the Bears today, though, at home again. Interesting to note, the Bears average more rushing yards at home than any team in the league at 210 yards per game. Obviously, why? Because that Justin Fields guy is freaking amazing. The run he had last week was off the charts good. I'm a little bit hesitant how many times I can go back to the well and back the Bears here, getting more down. It seems to be working, so I'm not going to get away from it. But an interesting game as well between Washington and San Fran that we talked about a moment ago. I think Washington can keep this thing close. If I can find a 7 or a 7.5 back out there, I certainly would bet on the Commanders. But you're looking at the Niners here with no Deebo Samuel at some other options for young Brock Purdy.
I am, and for those who don't know, Brandon, I know you're fairly new to when I come on. I like to give a long shot touchdown score every week, so I could come on and say, you know what, Derrick Henry's going to score a touchdown, and that takes no research whatsoever. But I like to find guys with some good value, so I'm on Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback for the 49ers at plus 900. So let me run this back. He scored in one of Purdy's 3 starts this season. So he scored once in the last 3 games, and he's playing about 55-60% of the snaps with Purdy as the starter. Now, Washington, one of the better front 4s in the league, I think Juszczyk's going to be on the field to help out in blocking situations. So I like him to be there. Fun fact, Juszczyk scored against Ron Rivera in their last game against the Commanders in 2020, and I took a look at his career splits from a month-to-month basis. Juszczyk scores it more in the month of December than any other month by a wide margin. Don't know if that means anything, but it stood out to me. And if I'm going to get 9-1 on a guy who's going to be on the field at least 60% of the time, I think it's really good value.
Well, and Kyle Shanahan uses his fullback in the pass game more than any coach in the NFL. He is known for it. Everywhere he's gone, he's resurrected the fullback position more than any other coach in the league. So, obviously, I agree with the look there. I mean, it's always a possibility when it comes to Kyle Juszczyk and Kyle Shanahan matching up and teaming together. All right, before we let you get out of here, let's look at some other games. Any other games you're interested in? I do actually have a thing I want to ask you because this is one of the games I handicapped earlier in the week. I've kind of gotten off it a little bit just because of some of the money and some of the movement that I've seen. But Deshaun Watson now is going to be playing in his 4th game. So in theory, he's had a full training camp under his belt of games, right? He's had 3 full weeks of preparing. Feels a little bit like a breakout spot here. Now, wind's obviously going to play a huge part in this, but Deshaun Watson's rushing yards prop to me, I think he goes for 25 or 30 in this game. The Saints have given up at least 25 rushing yards 7 times this year to quarterbacks. If you can get a rushing yards prop, and I think it would be rarely low just because we haven't seen much of Deshaun running so far, feels like a breakout game for him. Feels like a great game for the Browns to be successful on the road here. But what do you think of Deshaun Watson today and his ability to finally sort of look like Deshaun Watson again?
As a player prop guy, player prop handicapper, when I see over 32.5, I'm just jarred. I'm startled. It's not something that stands out when I'm looking for overs or unders because the unders are going to be heavily dialed down, and the opportunity for an over is very, very scary. If I look at Deshaun Watson running the ball, it's usually in situations that a play broke down in the passing game and he's taking off. I don't think there's going to be a lot of pass opportunities in this Cleveland game. So as far as the rushing total, it's something it scares me a little bit. I think we see a lot of Nick Chubb today. I mean, he can have 18, 19 carries. If you get the line low enough, if you get it at a 22, 23 and a half, maybe Washington's worth a look. But when I look for him to rush, it's going to be in pass heavy opportunities. I don't know if we see that against the Saints today. Not at 32 and a half.
Well, again, and the weather playing a huge factor there. I wonder if they just call some design runs for him just because he's probably faster than anybody else out there on the field at this point in time. Just a game that I'd looked at. Any other games you like there, Bobby?
Taking a look, for some reason, the Patriots getting 3 at home. I think they have a good O-line, D-line matchup. I think their offensive line has a good opportunity to win against this Bengals defensive line. It could be good for Mac Jones. So getting the Patriots +3 is something I had my eye on. Other than that, Titans need a win. I know Tannehill is not playing. We're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry, so much so that his over-under rush prop, I think, is 111 yards. It's absurd. I do like them, though, to get a win in a must-win situation. If you can get it at 3 and not the half, it's a little bit more favorable. But other than that, all our eyes are on Eagles and Cowboys, man. That's the game. Gardner Minshew, can the Cowboys make a statement before the playoffs? That'll be one fun to watch. I would take the Cowboys minus the 4.5.
Oh, well. Listen, I mean, this line is ping ponged all over the place. But if you're giving me points with the best team in the league, I'm absolutely going to take them.
The best team in the league with Gardner Minshew, who I like. He's a hell of a character. I can't hate the guy. I've been kind of shying away from Philly all season. I know they're head and shoulders the best team in the NFC. We'll see if that rings true in the playoffs. But Dallas, I love as far as being a balanced team that can run the ball, pass the ball. Defense is top 5 in the league. I think it's an opportunity for them to make a statement and put something in the head of Philly should they meet them in a couple weeks in January.
Yeah, hopefully it's a healthier collision course because now both of these meetings are missing a starting quarterback. Dak was missing in the first meeting, and now Jalen Hurts missing in the second one. So he is Bobby Holliday. Follow him on Bobby Stanley, rather. Follow him at Prop Holliday, HOLLIDAY. Merry Christmas, Bobby. Best to you and yours. We appreciate you coming on with us today. Go cash some tickets.
Merry Christmas, man. Heal up on the hand. I saw it online. Feel better, man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. All right. From the NFL to college, 5 bowl games here today that we're going to get into, starting with the Hawaii Bowl between Middle Tennessee and San Diego State. Aztecs laying 6.5, total of 47.5. I'm sorry, that's the only bowl game today. We'll look at the rest of them for the rest of the week. But over is 5-0 in Middle Tennessee's last 5 bowl games, and the over is 4-1 in San Diego State's last 5 December games here. How do you handicap this one there, Brandon?
Man, I'm all in on Middle Tennessee in this game. I really am. Middle Tennessee has the more balanced team right now. They're playing well. They're road tested. They've had some close games, and they've been performing pretty well here at the end of the season. Chase Cunningham ranks 2nd in Conference USA in completion percentage. I mean, goodness gracious, he threw for almost 450 yards just a few weeks ago against FAU, and has been great on the ground for them at times. And then you combine that with running back Frank Peasant, who has just been astronomical for them, over 1,200 yards from scrimmages this season. And his last 3 games, he scored 5 touchdowns. And then you look at San Diego State, and people have been looking at quarterback Jalen Maiden and how well he started this season, just not playing mistake-free football, doing what they got to do to win games at San Diego State. But in each of the last 5 games, he's thrown at least 1 interception. And Middle Tennessee thrives on those picks. Look no further than their upset victory on the road earlier this season against Miami, where they just feasted on them. I really love Middle Tennessee in this spot to not only cover that 6.5 line, but to win straight up.
Yeah, going to be certainly an interesting one and an entertaining one this evening. All right, we skip past Christmas to the middle of next week. Birmingham Bowl, East Coastal Carolina and ECU. The Carolina matchup here. Wow. Are we getting Grayson McCall in this game, Brendan?
It looks like it. He's in. This is crazy. Not often we see this. He's in the transfer portal and is visiting programs right now, but he's going to play in the game. That's the expectation, at least. And so I look at this, and not for those not very familiar with East Carolina, which I'm sure a lot of you are, and you're very much familiar with Coastal Carolina, what they've done the last 2 years under Grayson McCall. It's probably crazy to see that East Carolina is favored 7.5 points right now. But ECU has got a fantastic running back in Keaton Mitchell had over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in their last game. They are a balanced offense that can grind it out with you, play up tempo if they have to. And then you also add this into it. Coastal Carolina's got by far the worst pass defense in the Sun Belt this past season. Coastal Carolina's offense has struggled at times. Look no further than the Sun Belt Championship game against Troy, where I think a lot of us, including myself, thought that would be a tight game with Grayson McCall coming out there, kind of his swan song potentially, and they just got absolutely throttled from start to finish. So, not surprising when you actually look at everything to see ECU favored. Having said that, I'd take Coastal to cover here, if not win straight up. I know Coastal Carolina, not very good against the spread at times this year, but I like him in this spot. And again, I talk about swan songs. Grayson McCall starting his final game there. He's thrown 78 touchdowns against only, I think, 8 interceptions in his career there. There's a reason why, when you look at our 24/7 sports rankings, he was the top quarterback available in the transfer portal. I like Coastal Carolina in this spot, even going to get at least a cover against that ECU attack, which is fairly balanced. But give me the superstar in a swan song.
On to the Military Bowl between Central Florida and Duke. Duke laying 3.5, a high total here of 62.5. Duke 5-0 against the number in their last 5 bowl games. UCF 1-4 against the number in their last 5 games against the ACC. Interesting, Duke's offense this year has looked good at times. It's looked bad at times. But anytime you're getting this step down in talent from a Power 5 to a Group of 5, it's always an interesting matchup.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. UCF is very talented, and they've had quite a few opt-outs as a result going into this game, including their backup quarterback. And that hurt them in their AAC championship game because they ended up playing someone that hadn't really played for them ever, their third-string quarterback, after some injuries there. But John Reese Plumlee back at quarterback for UCF, dynamic guy. If you haven't watched him play, make sure you tune into this game. Guy is just phenomenal throwing and more so running the football. But Mike Elko in his first season at Duke, ACC Coach of the Year for good reason. He has revitalized that program. I mean, this was one of the worst Power 5 programs last season. And he's got that defense playing very, very, very well in some tight spaces this season. And maybe it shouldn't be a surprise, but listen, what he did at Texas A&M with that defense and where he's done elsewhere, he's got them going right now. UCF opt-outs affecting them. And UCF, their last 3 games, 1-2 with a loss to Navy and then some low-scoring games. They just haven't been getting it done. They just lost their defensive coordinator, Travis Williams, to Arkansas. He's not coaching in this game. They have one of the best red zone defenses in the country, top 5. The players, I don't feel, are going to be very focused for UCF. Duke, meanwhile, not affected by opt-outs. They got their guys out there. And then, also, when you flip a coin, Duke usually wins it. They're plus 14 in turnover differential this season. That's second best behind only USC in the country. Man, give me Duke, and I think Duke wins big against the Central Florida Knights.
On to some Power 5 bowl games here. The Valero Alamo Bowl between Texas and Washington. Longhorns -3.5, total of 67 and a hook. Texas is 4-0 against the number in their last 4 bowl games. The under is 4-0 for Washington in their last 4 games on a neutral site. Interesting, Washington has the best passer in the country, at least statistically, in Michael Penix Jr. Texas's defense has been very good in the latter part of the year. We saw that game against TCU where they corralled them and held them to under 20 points. Of course, TCU still wins that game, but nonetheless, it's kind of that matchup of offense versus defense here. Dear Lord, Quinn Ewers. I'm still Quinn Ewers has been good when he's been healthy this year, but hasn't really been spectacular. So when you look at this matchup, do you give the edge to Washington's offense or Texas's defense?
Whew, good question. I give it to Washington's offense because they've scored against practically everybody this season. And again, opt-outs, name of the game right now. Bijan Robinson, 1,900 yards from line of scrimmage this year. He's out. He's opting out, going to the NFL draft. Rashawn Johnson, his backup, who's also kind of their change of pace guy, he's out. Linebacker DeMario Overshone, who is a senior linebacker for them, he's out. Washington has had a fantastic week. not only in recruiting and getting off of this great first year under Kalen DeBoer, but players coming back. A lot of people thought Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback there, would go off to the NFL after this season. Nope, he's staying there. And not only that, he's going to play in this game.
Smart.
Fourth best offense in the country at 40.8 points per game. By far the best passing offense in the country. I will say this. I think Washington wins straight up, covers, of course. And also this total at 67.5. I'd go under right now. I think a lot of people are just expecting that Texas is going to be able to score quite a bit against this Washington defense. But I'm telling you, that Texas offense is a lot different without Bijan out there. And then you take Rashawn out as well, and you put it all on the shoulders of Quinn Ewers. I think Quinn Ewers could put up a lot of yards in this game, maybe 300 plus through the air, but I just don't see them being able to score and be balanced and be able to run the football. Give me the under on that, and give me Washington to win straight up as well.
All right, then finally, a game that really has lost its juice, pun intended, the Orange Bowl. Tennessee and Clemson. Clemson laying 5.5. Yeah, I'm full of dad jokes today on this Christmas Eve. Total
Man,
of
you're orange crushing me, man.
I see what you did there. See, well played. I'm glad you're getting on board. Obviously, no DJU, no Hendon Hooker, quarterbacks, not playing in this game, or guys who are starting. You will get Cade Klubnik, though. Klubnik, I forget how you pronounce it. One way. I've heard it both ways, and it is Klubnik. Okay. Anyway.
Just like the club on your arm.
That's right. Yes, sir. We will wave to the fans before we get out of here today. But interesting, again, a lot of changes for both these teams. Opt-outs, Clemson 4-0 against the number in their last 4 bowl games. And the over is 6-1 for Tennessee in their last 7 bowl games. I lean Clemson here just because I feel like Dabo, has the better defense. And Tennessee's pass defense is still bad. And when you have a quarterback like Klubnik who's still trying to prove himself a little bit every opportunity he gets, he'll want to show out as best he can. But I just don't have a great feel one way or another for this game.
Yeah, Tennessee's hurt big time by opt-outs in this game. Obviously Hendon Hooker's out for the year with the ACL injury, but their top 2 receivers are also opting out. Cedric Tillman and the amazing Jalen Hyatt, who I thought had an argument there to be maybe the best receiver in the country. But Marvin Harrison Jr., I think, has something to say about that at Ohio State. This is also the start of the Cade Klubnik era. This is his first full start from start to finish. DJ Uiagalelei started that ACC championship game before getting yanked after, I think, like 7 pass attempts, and they finally made the decision there. Cade Klubnik is a superstar. He makes everybody around him better. Clemson's receivers have not been very good this year, but, man, when he's in there, he finds a way to get it done, Cade Klubnik. 20 of 24, 279 yards in the ACC championship game. I really, really, really like Clemson this game and showing us that, hey, we're not going away. We will be a playoff contender next season. Tennessee, listen, they're number 1 in practically every offensive category out there. Joe Milton, the backup quarterback, now starting. He started 7 touchdowns against 0 interceptions, but did so obviously as a backup in garbage time this year for the most part. I really like Clemson in this spot. Also, Clemson in this matchup, their defense, don't forget about that defensive front. I know they're not going to have Miles Murphy out there, but they've got a lot of other pieces. This is one of the better defensive fronts in the country. Tennessee has not faced a defensive front like this since they faced Georgia earlier this season, and they were absolutely throttled in the trenches in that. Love Clemson in this spot.
All right. Well, we'll look to the Clemson Tigers. That'll do it for our bowl game preview for today with the Hawaii Bowl and the rest of this week. And before we get to our plays of the day, I want to remind you guys that Let's Bet It is presented by Superbook Sports. Pile up the wins, pile up the money with Superbook right now. The best betting app from Las Vegas is giving you free money every week you make a bet. Just place a $50 bet each week with Superbook. They'll give you a $5 bonus up to $50 for each betting week afterwards, for betting each week afterwards. If you're in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Nevada, New Jersey, or Tennessee, download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com to get your streak started today. All right, that will bring us to the moment of truth here first, Brandon. But get us to the Pickswise website and get us some 3-star plays of the day. Plenty of NFL games out there for us as well. We are looking at some college football games, and I have a total as well on in the bowl games here on Florida State and South Carolina that I put up as a 3-star play of the day here. But make sure you go check it out. Our good buddy Jared Smith here on Let's Bet It. Also has his play of the day up on the website as well. So there is plenty for you guys to check out at Pickswise.com. All right, moment of truth here again on this Christmas Eve. Give out your gift, Brandon. Share your gift with all of us with a winner.
Well, we talked about this earlier, and San Diego State, Middle Tennessee today in Hawaii Bowl. Tonight, as everybody's sipping on eggnog and wrapping up presents, and I know I'll be doing that. I'll be sipping on my favorite beverage.
Well,
You're
behind
love. Yeah, no. Give me, man. I love Middle Tennessee in this spot. So much more balance, as I mentioned earlier. San Diego State, 6.5-point favorite. I think Middle Tennessee not only covers but wins straight up. I think that's the no-brainer of the day.
All right, for my play of the day, we'll go to the NFL, and I'm going to take the Giants getting 4 points here. Giants are 10-4 against the number this year. Minnesota just 6-7-1. Strangely enough, Daniel Jones and the Giants offense have been markedly better on the road this year than they have at home. This is a bad Vikings defense. They've given up over 30 points per game over their last 3 games and should not be laying more than a field goal to anybody at this point in time, as they've played more close games than anybody in the league. The Giants have played in a bunch of close games too, but still, you know, the Vikings coming off that 33-point comeback over the Colts, due for a little letdown at home. Vikings still may win this thing, but 4 points, way too many for them to be laying. Give me Daniel Jones and the New York Giants here, getting 4 points from the Minnesota Vikings as my play of the day. With that, that will wrap things up here. See what I did there? On this Christmas Eve, as we get you guys out of here. Again, make sure you subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. Let us know in the comments what picks you're on, what questions you have as well. Download that Pickswise app. Available on the Apple Store and Google Play. For Brandon Marcello, I'm Mark Zeno. You guys have a wonderful Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all out there. Go cash some tickets. Go get it. Go bet it. Merry Christmas. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.